Indian people are extremely, extremely racist, especially towards Black people. And if you take a Black person who has been around Indian people for any period of time, Black people pick up on this. It's something that is, this is not a secret. Whether you're talking to, say African students who study in India, which there are African students who are there, or whether you're talking about, say, you know, Kenyans. There's a large population of Kenya that are Indian people that have immigrated to that country, or South Africa, or Canada, or, the United States, whatever. But Black people pick up on Indian people's racism because it is quite apparent. It's something that that is there. It's obvious. So I'm just going to give you an example of me, my family, and the Indian people in South Africa. When I grew up there, I spent the first 12 years of my life under apartheid. So we had servants, maids, cooks, gardeners, etc. And all of these people were Africans. They were Black people. And all of the Indians in South Africa had servants. Okay, they were all Black. Now, how were these servants treated? They were treated as subhuman. They were not considered to be human beings with feelings. They drank out of different cups. So Indian people would not share their table with the servants, who were an integral part of their household. They took care of their children. They drove them everywhere. They cooked for them. But they had to eat off of separate dishes. They could not sit on the furniture. They, if, say, for example, when we left our home and we traveled, so we lived in Pietermaritzburg, we traveled to Durban on the weekends, holidays, whatever. Our maid would come with us. She was not allowed to sleep on or sit on our furniture or sleep on our furniture, so she had to sleep on the floor. These are things that all Indian people did in South Africa. And now I'm just talking about South Africa. I'm not talking about, say, when Indian people immigrate to other countries. But this is true even in first generation Indians. Because, say, if an Indian person had to marry a Black person, 9 times out of 10, that Indian person's family is going to completely disown the Indian person who married a Black person. Now, Indian people generally, they want Indian people to marry within their, they want Indian people to marry other Indian people, and then they even go into they want, the same caste, and they even have subcastes and all of this stuff. So, but if an Indian person marries a white person, or say an Asian person, it's not considered to be as heinous of an act as if an Indian person married a Black person. So this can be tied to the caste system because, like I mentioned in my previous video, Indian people are racist towards other Indian people. And some of this is based on skin color. It's not entirely based on skin color, but there is a factor that is, that is apparent in that. So Ava DuVernay made a movie called Origin, and it's based on Isabel Wilkerson's book Caste, which somebody just pointed out. And it's very difficult for me to talk about these very heavy topics in 10 minutes. So I can't cover everything, but Indian people are inherently racist as a culture and as a society. And then within that racism, there is a hierarchy. So yes, while an Indian society might be racist towards Western people, Western culture, white people, etc., just like Vivek Ramaswamy making that comment about how, he made all these disparaging comments about, Americans. And he was talking about white Americans, how they're not as smart and blah, blah, blah. These are not uncommon things that Indian people say within themselves. I have been privy to these conversations in whether it's, say a friend situation or families or extended families or just in my Indian community, these are very common beliefs that most all Indian people will espouse. They will say things like, well, white people have no culture. Their food is horrible. They just go on and on and on. But when it comes to Black people specifically, Indian people have extremely racist views about Black people. And it doesn't matter how nice this Black person is, how educated they might be. None of those things matter. And that's why I say that a lot of Indian people, they align themselves with a very far right-wing kind of Trump ideology. So you might take somebody from, say, America who is a Trumpster, and they espouse all these very racist views. And you could take an Indian person, and in many respects, those views are going to align because Indian people generally tend to hold very racist views. It goes back to the caste system, yes, but it also ties into other aspects. Because as I pointed out before, there are the so-called untouchables in India, and Indian people are racist towards them as well. So this is all a very, these are complicated things, and I'm just trying to do my best to share these ideas because we are in terrible times right now in the United States and in the world generally. So I guess Indian people, if you guys want to come for me, come for me. I am not saying anything that's untrue. This is the truth, and I think it's kind of an open secret.
Hello tribe, welcome back again to this particular show. I go by Sherlock in case this is your first time. Now, in today's tea, from what exactly we just listened to, Indians are coming out, condemning that they themselves, not everybody to generalize, but there's some quarters, some individuals of Indians who are, racist against the Black. They will rather have, let's say, maybe a marriage between an Asian or a white person, but then it will be considered as a heinous act if they have maybe married to a Black or a dark-skinned, person to that particular very extent, and we just listened. But of course, guys, I've got other set of other, reactions and other, controversial sentiments which are also made on the same. We're going to listen, and of course, guys, as usual, as we're doing it here, I'll circle back with more sentiments, more comments over the same. But again, do hang around, and also don't forget to do dropping us your comments on what your thoughts are. Let's watch.
So that makes it okay, and people who know better should inflict the same cycles of behaviour. What? I've literally seen Black people be racist to Indians too. But that don't mean I'm going to sit here and say it's okay when Indians are racist back to Black people. And I'm not denying that some people can be racist in every culture, but I'm not talking about ignorant people here. I'm talking about those of us who know better. I'm talking about the same people who want to scream racism, but continue to remain ignorant. In the context of what I'm speaking about, and to the level of this racism, no argument can justify it. These are innocent people making food and just doing their bit in their country, trying to earn a living. And people in the comments are using it as an excuse to be racist. And this comment just backs all of that up. I think it's sad that Black and brown people experience so much racism and then decide to point fingers at each other. But I'm not here to get into that. My point was that every single one of those videos have millions of views and hundreds and thousands of comments, of which most of them are racist towards Indian people. And no matter what anyone says, that racism cannot be justified.
Brown people seem to be loving the Indian Netflix original Masaba Masaba, but I have a few issues and comments about it. This show had the perfect opportunity to represent Black Indians and Black South Asians in general, and completely missed it. And not only were there anti-Black comments and weird comments about her hair, there were African designs in her collection in the show. None of it was mentioned. There's no mention of her racial and ethnic background, and that is Black erasure. Even in Indian media, there is Black erasure. I don't know if she chooses to not identify with her Blackness. I don't know if it was the production's decision, but this is a form of anti-Blackness, and it leads to further anti-Blackness in the South Asian community. And before y'all get started, I recognize that I'm light-skinned, but I would love to see some representation for people like me in Indian media, because we're always discriminated against. From my experience and also viewing other Black South Asians, I've seen that many South Asians don't treat us as Indian unless we abandon our Blackness, and that's an issue.
All right, so this is a very, very long story. If you want to hear the entire story of how we met to basically how I ended up having all my kids, let me know and I'll start a part series for you. But if not, me and my husband met in high school. My dad ended up finding out and taking me to India to show me the culture and show me the way of how good little Indian girls are supposed to marry within their culture. And I'm pretty sure he was trying to leave me there, which wasn't successful. I ended up coming back to the United States and breaking up with my husband because I was like, there's just so much pushback when it came to my family. So I was like, okay, I can't deal with this. A few months later, I was like, look, I love this guy. I can't lose him. He is my person. So ended up getting back with him, but of course sneaking around about it. Got caught again by my dad. He was posted up in a parking lot and saw me, and I ended up running away from home. My parents are actually divorced. So my dad lives in Houston. That's where we were at the time. And my mom lives in Utah. So I ended up moving with my mom in Utah. I told her about the whole situation. She was like on the fence about it, but she was trying to keep an open mind. She's probably thinking, oh, this is just a fling. It's not going to last very long. And, well, ended up convincing her to move back to Houston. She actually wanted me to leave him already. So I was kind of sneaking around her back on being with him. So then one day I ended up running away again because there was just a lot of drama between my parents and my mom and my dad. It was a lot for me to take in. I was 17. I ran away. I was like, look, I can't do it. So I ended up getting caught after I ran away and going home. I was already, I think, 3 months pregnant at the time. My mom immediately said, get an abortion. He's going to leave you. He's going to knock you up and not ever talk to you again. You know, stereotyping Black men. And I was like, you don't know him. You don't know what we have and all that. So anyways, ultimately, as soon as I turned 18, I had my son 3 weeks before I turned 18. So after I had my son, waited about 2 months to stack my money and moved out. So over the years, my mom's been a little bit more open-minded about the kids. She says she likes them. Her actions are different. But, you know, ultimately, I feel she only likes the kids, my kids, that look Indian and not Black. So actions speak louder than words to me. So there's that. My dad, on the other hand, he never had pictures of the kids, never really asked about them, doesn't really care, said I was off in school in some foreign land to all his people. So I haven't talked to him in like over a decade. So short story.
They see colorism to the fullest. But I grew up, it's like, hey, Monica, stay out of the sun. You're going to get too dark. When you get married, when they start talking about so-and-so's daughter, so-and-so's son, too dark. Can't marry them, even in the Indian community.
I've met Indians in my career who are much darker than
you.
me.
Darker than you.
Who are much darker than
you.
me.
Oh, but they get the backlash too. They would never want us to marry their sons.
Let's get into this because this is actually a very important question. Of course, I can only speak from my experience, and my experience differs from a lot of other Black people because I am multiracial and I am of a lighter complexion. And I also have pretty privilege. But from my experience, especially with the other Black people that I had met there, that I had actually learned that Black people had actually been in India for centuries. So there is certain villagers that are African, like of African Indian descent. So they are used to seeing Black people. However, colorism does exist in India. Of course, because of colonization and also, fetishization of whiteness. But in my experience, I've been met with only love, respect, dignity. They're more curious than hateful and assuming. But not everybody's gonna get that experience. I know that, but try it.
So I did a video on TikTok that went viral around the racism towards Indian people that is going around on TikTok. And the majority of the comments were from other race groups saying that, well, why should we care when the Indian community is so racist towards us? And I agree. I think our community can be really racist, especially previous generations. And I think we have a huge duty to call out our parents, grandparents, etc. on their racism. But I still don't think it makes it okay to be racist towards a particular group of people and use your justification to be racist towards them as, oh, well, they're racist, so we can be racist back. I think that doesn't make any sense. And so, yeah, I urge you to go and have a look at that video and look at the comments, and it's quite disturbing. I think racism, again, I'm going to say this, racism towards Indian people in the world and on TikTok is so normalized, and I think our community as well, we just laugh off these comments, and it's almost become just so part of our lives. And yeah, we need to stop this. It has such a massive effect on our mental health that we don't even know. It's very subconscious. So yeah.
Okay, so before I started my series, I wanted to tackle this question right here. A lot of Indians don't like black people because if you have a baby with a black guy, they think how dark it will come out. And in my case, this is true. So my family always called me dark growing up. Mind you, I'm not that dark, but my mother is darker than me. My father is lighter than me. So of course, then you get me. But apparently I'm still dark. So when I was pregnant with my son, all my mom would say is how dark my child was going to be. Now, when he was born, when you look at the top of a newborn's earlobe, you'll see what color they're going to be, basically. Their pigmented earlobe basically tells you how dark or how light the child is. So what she said was, he's going to be so dark, look at his ear. I was like, huh? I didn't get it until later that she thought that because of his ear, he's going to be dark. And well, anyway, colorism is a big issue in India, and that could be why they don't really like the intermingling with black people. Now, that being said, my mom did remarry after my parents divorced, and she did marry a white guy, and my sister is half white, so she's super, super bright. So, yeah.
Hello tribe, welcome back again. Now this is the circle back that I promised you at the very beginning of this particular show or this particular video. Now it is of evidence that you see, we've got these particular shades, and this the whole thing as part to humanity, and I do not know, but I also think that it is the insecurities people that are having, and also the superiority complexities that they have attached themselves to, skin color, maybe. Let me just call it to skin color to this, so that it can fit the context here. The light-skinned you are, the more better and the more reserved and the considerate and more civilized you deem. And those particular shades, as they're keeping on moving, so if you're moving towards white, you are more inclined to whiteness and maybe the privileges that whites are attached to, in as much as that maybe you are racially a different person, but so long as that you are this. Now that has come out clear, and you can see this one in many platforms. Let's say, for example, in celebrities, shows, and maybe in TV shows like telenovelas, you realize that they tend to have light-skinned actors and actresses to stage, and this is something that we cannot fail not to see these, that it's the light skinned you are, the more privileged and the more you deem like more likable that you are to the masses, also the audience. And that's the reason as to why the Indians are having a problem, or they're having a struggle to with the identity crisis. You rather fit in the white pack than this other pack, and that is the reasons why, to me. But I also do stand corrected that what I've just said has been purely my opinion. Tribe, let me know in the comment section of what exactly you think. Has ever this, have you ever witnessed this, or you've come across this, and you can share your experience, and let us, of course, get to know. Let's continue this particular conversation, keep the conversation alive in the comment section, and let me see you in the next one. Signing out.